Okay, here we go. So, is blogging easy? Yes and no. The end. No, it is to a point. It's easy to write the blog, but it's the rest of it that nobody tells you about that makes it a pain in the ass. Like everybody gets all excited about blogging, like, oh, I'm going to be a blogger and I'm going to be one of these Instagram influencer blogger people and make tons of money and be a travel blogger and all that. And it doesn't always work out as smoothly as you'd hope. First of all, for any blog to be successful, you have to write something people want to read. Because if you're just throwing up stuff at random and nobody wants to read it, no one's going to read it. And that's one of the biggest things. I come across a lot of that too on YouTube. As you get all these people who have tons of videos, myself included, and I get like more than 1,000 subscribers, but only like 10 to 20 views, like I do. It's what happens when you create videos that nobody wants to watch. The same with the blog. So if you're not really engaging the audience, it's not going to go far. But writing the blogs isn't that difficult. It's fairly easy. I can just crank out a blog post from my slate. But it's the other things like website performance issues. That's a fun one to tackle because at any given time your website can sink. And it could be like if you're using WordPress and you have two plugins that aren't compatible together, bad days. If you're doing anything like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress, doesn't really matter. If your SEO isn't what it should be, you're not going to go anywhere. The performance of your website is going to matter greatly. And I mostly say I bring it up with WordPress is because there are so many things that you can put into WordPress, and not all of them are going to fix all of your issues. Like right now, I had to disable minifying for CSS and JavaScript on Discuss, which is the discussion plugin I use for making comments, so that YouTube would be able to see that video views were coming from WriterSanctuary. What that has to do with the other, the only thing I can think of is that somehow Discuss was minifying YouTube's JavaScript when it runs the player on your website, and it screwed things up. So it stopped showing views and watch time on my videos. So I kind of fixed that, knock on wood, because I'm not really 100% sure it was Discuss, but... And that's because YouTube has a YouTube problem. YouTube's external tracking methods suck ass. But that's not blogging. We're talking about blogs here. But WordPress performance issues, you have to keep on, any website really, you have to keep on making sure that all of your shit's running right. Because if you add something or change a code to anything, I know a lot of people out there that use like Wix and Squarespace, they don't have access to root, so that doesn't matter because, well, you're limited. But for the rest of us, it doesn't take much to really screw up the performance of a website. I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, like with the cumulative layout shift problem that Google has. If this is when your website loads and starts jumping around. Now, that is called a cumulative layout shift, and a way to fix that is using the Optimize plugin that I have, and I even did a video about it. Solved CLS, went from 4 point something to 0. So that's good. But not all plugins are as easy to set up. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to make matters worse. A good one is, what if you wanted to add Instagram to any website? Well, Instagram uses an external call that pulls all of your photos from Instagram to your website. Now that third-party call is going to take time to load, which means Google's going to see it as a slower running site. It's going to hurt performance. So you have to be kind of careful as to what you add to your blog. So website performance issues are a big one. Okay, what the hell? Okay, so Diana says this chat is so mean to me. I said I'm going to Photoshop you into a hot tub. I've got to fulfill my fantasy. Yeah, I've never that I didn't see that. Nobody saw that. Linda says, I set my expectations low in that it helps with organic reach, but it takes a ton of time to get traction. The whole thing is a cross promotion it on social platforms. Any insights and opinions is using Google for posting blog posts. On using Google for posting blog posts, I'm not sure what you're asking. Any insight and opinions on using Google for posting blog posts? Like for search, because that's the first thing I do is I submit my sitemap before I even have a piece of content on the website. My sitemap goes up, so I'm not sure what you're asking exactly on that one, Linda. Yeah, that was a bit confusing. Okay, so Neo saw Doc's comment, but I didn't. Huh. Yeah, that didn't show up at all, Diana. Okay, anywho, that's so website performance issues. And then here's one, SEO research for ideal phrases. Now, Google My Business. Well, Jesus. I used it wasn't called Google My Business. It was something else back in 2008. So I haven't used it since. But I would use any content is going to be good. Yeah, it should be. I'm a big fan of using blog posts for gaining traffic. So this is why most big businesses nowadays have a blog, is because it does drive traffic. And which leads me to the SEO research and ideal phrases. Now, it's one thing to find the most ideal and sought after search phrase, but without knowing why people are using that word in the first place, it's only about half effective. And this is called search intent. Like, okay, so for a second here, for argument's sake, let's say someone's looking up the Oculus Quest 2 in Google. Right now, the search traffic is 135,000 searches a month. Okay, so we have the Oculus Quest 2. Why is anybody using that phrase? Are they looking for a review? Are they looking for a list of games for the Oculus? Are they looking for a how-to? Is there a troubleshooting thing that people are looking for? That's called search intent. So it doesn't matter if you have the best key phrase out there. If you're not writing it for a specific target audience, then you're going to lose that traffic. So you need to know what they're looking for and why, and how you can deliver it. So that's something that's not so easy to master. I've been doing it for 10 years and it's still a pain in the ass, especially since Google likes to change stuff. Excuse me. Which leads to understanding search intent, because it's the intent of what someone is searching for is what you have to connect with. You just can't assume just because you have the best key phrase that you're going to get tons of traffic. It doesn't work that way. Next up is optimizing your image use. This one hurts a lot. There's still people out there who will take pictures with their phone and directly upload them to their website. Do you have any idea how big a picture is from your phone? We're talking... See, I took one the other day, and it measured in Photoshop like 6 inches by 4 inches. That's a lot of freaking pixels. And it's at 300 dpi. And those files are massive. And so it takes a machine quite a long time to download that image, then render it in your browser. And it's weird to me that people still do that. Like, you got to optimize all of it. You got to shrink them down. Too big. And a lot of times you don't need to go hog wild with the visual stimuli. There was one study out a couple of years ago how it showed that images in blog posts, blog posts that had images were 33% more likely to get shared and liked in social media, I think it was. Okay, so I've been doing this for a while. And do you know what the difference is between loading up a blog post with a bunch of images and then not using hardly any images at all in another? Absolutely nothing. There hasn't been a single difference. In fact, some of the blog posts performed better with fewer images in it. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's okay to like see the numbers for what they are across an average, but every site, every niche, every industry is going to be different. So you got to find the best combination for your own stuff. And I hate it when you get these experts that sit there and say, "Oh, you have to have a blog post that's 2,200 words in order to get first in search." I've got 7 blog posts in WriterSanctuary that are number 1 for its search phrase. The first one being the Buy Me a Coffee article. That one has 1,900 words. The other ones have less than 1,500. So this whole you need to have 2,200 words or better is crap, because it really depends on your audience and what you provide. I've seen articles that were number 1 in search that had less than 300 words. So it's one of those things where it's based on averages across the entire internet. Every industry, every topic, every search term is going to be different. So anyway, understanding search intent is important. And optimizing your images is important. Addressing security issues. There you go. There's one that I hardly see anybody bring up on YouTube. Is like all the different security things you have to worry about. So luckily I use like WordFence, and I have it racked up to where I have mine tuned up a bit tight, but it stops everything. And I've also hidden my login page. So I'm going to be doing a tutorial probably next Wednesday on how to do that, because that stops brute force attacks. But yeah, there's like, you have to worry about all kinds of security issues, and not just from hackers. You have to worry about plugins that have security flaws in them, or a theme that has the incorrect type of coding in it that's going to create an exploit. I mean, there's a lot of different security issues that go behind maintaining your website. And then you have to make sure that's all up to date. Not to mention the fact that things are evolving and changing almost on a daily basis. So you have to keep an eye on what things need to be updated, what you have to get rid of. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's almost a full-time job by itself. Linda says, I hate that too. I think that was the whole pillar pages. God, I can't remember. Sounds familiar though. But yeah, security issues are a big thing. Okay, so what about updating older articles? Well, if you write a lot of green content like I do, you would have to go back and make sure all those older articles are still up to date and kept fresh. Now, you don't have to. In fact, you can just write a blog post and forget about it for the rest of your life. But Google likes fresh and current and relevant information. And if you go back and spruce up some of those older pieces and give them new life, then they start generating more traffic. And one of my favorites is the article that we did. All we did was add 400 words and change a few headers, and we increased its traffic by 8,000% inside 6 months. So making Google happy with fresh content is always good. But what about when you start getting to the point where you have like 1,000 tutorials? So now you're trying to spend all your time writing new stuff and then going back and trying to rewrite that much content, which is why a lot of people pay people like me to do it. And you don't have to. That's one of those optional things where you don't have to really worry about updating your older content. But if you want your website to continue to drive traffic, it's worthwhile. Oh, and then it says just a page about a core subject matter about your product, services. 2,000 words was the magic number supposedly. It depends on the industry. I know some that were, God, I read some that were like in 10,000 plus, and it was like, seriously, it was a landing page. But you know, whatever. The best way to do it though is find out what works best for your site and your audience. Some people who have business pages that offer certain products and services, that might work. For someone like me who does tutorials, I found that for my tutorials, the magic number is between 12 and 1,500 words. Those usually do in the top 10 for Google search. The Let's see, the listicles that are massive, some of those have to hit 4,000 words if you want to get up there because there's so much competition on them. Which will bring me up to another point here in a minute. But yeah, updating articles, not necessarily mandatory, but is worthwhile. Okay, so then you also have to maintaining a constant flow of content. Google likes, as well as YouTube, likes consistency. They like it when you have blog posts out at a certain point. So you have to maintain a publishing schedule, which I'm trying to do again. And every time I've done a publishing schedule, the numbers have always improved. So across the board, not just for those blog posts, but for the entire website in general. So now you have to set up a schedule to create a constant flow of content. Now, if you have the money to hire somebody to do it for you, then that's fine. But if you're someone like me who doesn't necessarily have the cash to hire another writer, I've got one other writer and he's on a schedule for the Green website. But I've got 4 other websites I'm working on. I just can't afford to keep paying for more writers. And I got to figure out how to manage all of that shit. So that's kind of a pain in the ass for a blogger. Especially now, you don't have to. It's another optional thing. I mean, you don't have to maintain a constant schedule for writing blog posts. But if you want Google to keep your stuff in the top 10, and you're especially if you're in a very competitive niche, then yeah, you're going to have to do something about that. So, yeah. And then finding viable money-making platforms, because not every method of making money on a blog is going to work the same for everybody. I did a video not recently, like one of my first videos was the reality of what happens with 1,000 visits to a blog using AdSense or something like that. And I showed that AdSense doesn't pay for shit. In fact, I don't know about YouTube's AdSense because I'm not on the YouTube partnership program because I can't get 4,000 hours of watch time. But if it's anything like the blog version of AdSense, I can see why YouTubers don't rely on AdSense and sell their own products because AdSense doesn't pay dick. For WriterSanctuary, in order for me to make $1,000 a month, I would have to get 350,000 visits a month just for $1,000, and that differs greatly upon the different niches of websites. Gaming websites tend to make more than writing websites. Health and fitness depends on the day. Sometimes it makes more, sometimes it doesn't. But it fluctuates quite a bit. And I hate it when these experts get on there and tell you, AdSense is the way to go and it works forever. I'm like, fuck. It's a trickle of income. It'll pay your hosting. That's about it. You can't live on AdSense? Yeah, Linda knows. I don't have YouTube on AdSense on YouTube. I do have it for all my blogs. And there is no way in God's green earth that I could make enough money on AdSense alone to maintain anything. So that's why you have to find other money-making platforms, which is why people use affiliate marketing. They use merch products, print on demand, offering their own services, like Linda Ray and Trevor have their idle stuff. I'm debating on setting up my own courses for using WordPress and freelance writing and all that good stuff. I've got the book. I know like Philip Franco will push his own clothing line on his channel. You look at any big YouTuber and they're not relying on AdSense, and that it's the same with blogging. The blogs will bring in AdSense will pay you enough to pay your hosting, which is about what I pay $106 every 3 years, and then it's $13.95 a month or $13.95 a year for the domain names. So I make a little bit more than hosting, but I also have 5 websites that I'm really trying to get hammer going. So you can't rely on AdSense alone. In fact, AdSense will make up a very small portion of what you make if you find some good stuff. And that's the hard part, is now you have to go through Amazon and find some products that you want to do for go through affiliate platforms like CJ.com or ShareASale, and then try to find products that match your blog. I mean, or do the print on demand. You have to sit down and come up with the ideas for all that. And this is on top of doing all the publishing for your website, taking care of the security, keeping an eye on performance issues, keeping backups regular on your website, cleaning the database periodically. A lot of things you can do automatic. Like there's plugins that will do it for you. Updraft Plus will do it automatically. But to maintain your website, unless you have the money to pay somebody to do it for you, it takes a lot of work. It's not something that you can just set and forget. And I can't remember what channel said to do that, and all I wanted to do was punch him in the face. Like, no, it's not how it works. Maybe for him, because he probably has a team because he can afford it, because he charges like $500 a year for one of his classes. I'm like, yeah. So he probably makes enough money to hire somebody to do it for you. But when you're doing it on your own, it's just not, it's a lot of work. It's not something that you can just wave a magic wand over and all of a sudden, boom, your blog does awesome. Linda says, who do it? Memberships, subscriptions, merch, digital product offerings. Yes. Ebooks. That's another good one. I am going to be working on setting up to sell my books off my own website, because then I can cut Amazon out of the deal. Like, cut out the middleman. So you just have to, it's a constant tweaking, exactly. And you have to keep vigilant on maintaining your shit. It's not all that easy, but the writing itself is. Now, granted, there is a lot of work behind it, but I still quite enjoy it, because if you know the different things that you can do, and you've been doing it for as long as I have, like, you can automate a large portion of it. Like the security stuff, I've automated, or I've got WordFence running. I've hidden the login page, and I am quite vigilant on making sure everything is up to date, and I use the latest version of everything. So that isn't so bad once you start getting the hang of all that. Optimizing images, I use EWW image optimizer or something like that. I can't remember what essentially it optimizes your images for you and turns them into WebP, which is great for Google. Google loves WebP images. Let's see, I have auto-optimize, cache enabler. I had to try a bunch of different combinations of stuff to get the right plugins that work for my website for what I want to do. So it takes a bit of work, but I'm not saying that it sucks. It's work, but I really enjoy it, which is why I have 5 blogs. And like constant updating. So like with WordPress, you can set WordPress to update everything automatically. The backups run 3 times a day off. I use Updraft Plus, and Updraft can back up my backups to Dropbox, which is one that I use quite a bit. But it's not impossible, and it's not nearly as difficult as I make it sound. What it is that I'm just showing that it's not something that you can just set and forget. There's a lot. The more you add to it, the more difficult it becomes. If you're creating just a simple blog, then it's pretty easy to take control of. You don't have to worry about a lot of different things. You still have to worry about the security and all that, but a lot of it can be automated. So it's not really. God, I'm like, I don't want to scare anybody because creating a blog really isn't that bad. It just takes a lot more work than what a lot of people say it does. And what set me off about it is I watched a couple of videos where I just wanted to. I was screaming at my monitor. People are so misleading with their information, and yeah. Anywho, so that's all I wanted to talk about today. Is blogging itself is easy, but it does take a bit of work. Well, 42 minutes in, and we finally get someone spamming. Where the hell have you been? You're late. Blink report. But yeah, so there we go. I lost my train of thought. Oh, it's been a month, people. Anyway, so there we have it. Blogging is easy, just takes a bit of work. And once you get the work down, it doesn't get too bad of that. I think it's all about preparation. Yeah. Diversification. Oh, absolutely. I'm diversified. Oh. I had a itch on my back and I can't reach it. Okay. Sorry if I'm quite working on horror sci-fi. New idea I got. That's awesome, Nat. No, that's great. So that's yeah. So now that you know that it takes a lot of work, are you interested in starting your own blog? Like I said, it's not that difficult. It's not difficult. It's just it's work. I mean, time consuming. That's about it. Because all the stuff I read off to you today doesn't take much to learn. There's plenty of resources. In fact, half the shit that I talked about today, I've done plenty of articles on my website. And everything I covered today is covered in Green Geeks. So there's lots of resources. So it's not necessarily difficult to maintain blogs. It's just time consuming.